All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is my lecture video number 9. It was intended to be out much earlier this week. I've had lots of trouble with some health issues, so been struggling a little bit. I know it's spring break. I'm actually recording this on Saturday at the end of the week. I know we start spring break. We started technically spring break already. So you don't need to worry about this a whole lot. It's not due until midnight on March 23rd. And it's a very short one. I made this one intentionally short. I'm going to show you a couple, I think 3 videos, and then I'll show you the notes. You don't have to take notes during the videos except for any keywords I might mention in the middle of a video. And then you can go from there and send me the keyword report. And again, it's very, very easy. You don't need to worry about it over spring break. So the first one is a snippet from America's Got Talent, the very first season. And this is called a glass harmonica or a glass armonica or a glass piano. Harmonica doesn't really mean the instrument that you hold up to your mouth and play like the blues and things like that. A harmonica just means any instrument that can play multiple notes at the same time and create its own harmony. But we've kind of adopted it for that one meaning. But this is the glass harmonica. Let me get myself out of the picture. Before I start it, let me tell you that keyword number 1 is Broadway, and keyword number 2 is jalapeno, the pepper.
All right, number 4, where is... Oh, here she is. Yes, hi, how are you? Nice to see you.
Shake your hand, Regis, because I need to play my glass piano.
Oh, okay, you got a glass of water that helps you, right?
So, Regis, my name is Maylene Garcia. I'm from Corrales, New Mexico, and I am one of 13 people out of 6 billion in the world to play Benjamin Franklin's glass harmonica.
Yes, that's one of his inventions, Benjamin Franklin. Go get him, Maylene. Number 4. Maylene, number 4, with an assist from Benjamin Franklin. All right.
So that's the glass harmonica. Now that is a bunch of crystal bowls. If you happen to have a crystal glass at your home, you can actually recreate that sound. It's a really neat sound. It kind of sounds heavenly or angelic. And it's got to be fine crystal. I don't actually own any fine crystal, or I demonstrate it for you. But if you do have real crystal, if you put water in the glass, and depending on how much water is in the glass, you can change the note. Those were just a series of different size bowls. And you have to have a little bit of moisture, typically just water on your fingers. And if you use the glass, you would just dip your finger into the glass and then rub slowly around the rim. You have to figure out how much tension, either, you might be pressing too hard or not hard enough, but eventually you'll find a sweet spot and it'll make a note. And then if you drink half of the water, you do it again, it'll change the note. There's actually, I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Miss Congeniality. It's very old now, but let me see if I can find. This is a really neat other version of a glass piano. Not sure what he calls this. Sugar Plum Fairy. No. Not spelling it right. But here it is. This is amazing. This guy just uses about 40 different glasses, all of different sizes, and they're all kind of glued down to this board. But he plays this incredible piece. You may recognize it. It was in the movie Fantasia. This is the Bach Toccata and Fugue in D minor, originally for organ. But just watch what this guy can do. Let me get out of there for you. I mean, that is really something. Okay, so now the next snippet I'm going to give you is pre-recorded for another class. Keyword number 3 is turkey. You'll notice a lot of Thanksgiving stuff. This was part of this list I originally used back in November, so I've kind of changed it up a little bit, but there's a lot of food and a lot of Thanksgiving food. So this is from a video I made originally on November 2nd. And it's about the organ. We talked about the organ a little bit, but this gives you a little bit more understanding of how an organ works. And pay close attention, there may be a keyword in the middle of it. Let me just check on my face. You'll see me live and you'll see me then in the corner. I kept the picture a little too big back then. I apologize for just sitting there reading a book, but this is pretty cool to watch.
There must be a law in Oregon that says everything has to look pretty, including factories. Take Hillsboro, for example, a manufacturing and technology center about 20 miles west of beautiful Portland. Here, in an industrial park that's more park than industrial, is the Rogers Instruments Factory, which has been making organs since 1952. So, beautiful Oregon, beautiful organs. Which was named after which? Is it because it's organs, is that why you make it in Oregon?
No, actually, I think the name Oregon came a long time before we ever came into Oregon.
If you ask a New Yorker how to get to Carnegie Hall, he'll tell you, practice, practice, practice. If you ask someone at Rogers, he'll say, perfection, perfection, perfection.
Was the organ in Carnegie Hall. Now, we still have an organ there, but we have a brand new digital organ in Carnegie Hall.
There are plenty of Rogers organs in other concert halls, too. But that's not the company's main market.
Today, our primary customers are the churches. 85% of our business goes to churches. But even in the churches today, we have in America over 300,000 churches. Almost all of them use organs.
Churches can be particular about their organs, which are, after all, supposed to represent the voices of angels. Many like traditional pipes, others prefer electronics, and some go with a combination.
They'll send us, maybe a section of a pew or something from their altar or something from the church, and then we'll take that and we'll match a color to match what they want.
You can describe in words exactly how these wonderful instruments are made. This part fitting into that, and this piece into this. But let's let the organ speak for itself.
John, when we put the case, comes down onto this pallet, that it rolls around through the rest of the factory. Actually, this pallet is the base of our packaging, so it never leaves this until the customer gets it.
So it's in its cradle, ready to be
It's
shipped?
in its cradle, ready to be shipped.
Those are all microprocessors.
Yes, sir.
That there is genius in the making of these instruments means that there had to be genius in the design. Let's meet Paul Bergman.
This is where we design the electronic circuitry that goes in the instruments.
What distinguishes Rogers from other organ makers is the marriage of old-fashioned craftsmanship with proprietary technologies. Paul explains.
So here's a microchip.
Oh, that's the chip.
Yeah. And it goes on one of those locations.
Okay, so this is the template. This is the map for where
Right.
those are laid out.
Right. So they're assembled and soldered all together.
By themselves, sophisticated technologies are useless. After all, even the space shuttle can't fly itself. That's why Rogers has Tom Goodapple.
My job is to go out and acquire the samples from real pipe organs that we're eventually going to use in our product.
Tom travels the world recording the best sound samples, including the Royal Albert Hall in London.
We make stereo recordings of just about every pipe in a particular set of pipes that we're interested in sampling, and eventually put the digitized sounds into memory in the organ where they're played back. This is called digital sampling.
You can record a digital sample out of anything that makes noise. We've got it made in America.
Let's play it back.
We've got it made in America. Just like that, the voice becomes a part of the keyboard. We've got it made in America. We've got it made in America.
You're a skipping record.
We've got it made in America.
That's the way it sounds. That's the way it sounds in the morning.
Wherever you go in the Rogers factory, you hear sweet, sweet music. I feel like one of us should be giving away the bride here. This is Paul Carino, Rogers' chief organ tester and a man for all musical seasons.
And then her husband walks in. And she pleads for his life. And while she's pleading, he dives out the window.
Paul was playing digital samples of the real instruments. Not that Rogers has anything against pipes. Throughout history, the magnificence of an organ was judged by size. The bigger the pipes, the better the organ.
It was the ancient Greeks that first developed the first organ, and they did it with water power.
Keyword number 4 is schoolhouse.
They called it a hydraulis. They used water power to force air through bellows and up through huge pipes. And they used these pipes at the Olympic Games to announce games. That was the first organ.
Rogers builds pipe organs too, but with a value-added twist.
This organ has hundreds and hundreds of digital samples, and it's also connected to live wind-blown pipes. And you won't be able to tell the difference between our digital sample and the pipe.
We'll see about that.
Let's have a little build-up, a group of notes with pipes. Same group of notes played all digitally, no pipes at all.
So why bother with the pipe part at all?
Well, people like pipes because of the tradition of several thousand years. The downside to pipes is they are very expensive to produce. An organ of this size would be about $2 million with all pipes, with all these being pipes. But by having most of it digital, we can take that cost down 80 to 90%.
Naturally, Rogers excels at special orders and will gladly personalize each organ.
Oh, you've got a John Ratzenberger.
When you pull that, there will be a very special sound that they put behind it.
Probably somebody snoring. Oh, you're going John R.
Yeah, now when you press that button, watch what happens.
Ready? The polka! Everybody!
And that's enough on that one. We can get rid of that, I believe. And then one more. This is on the instrument known as the banjo. You've all probably heard the banjo, kind of in the bluegrass era. Keyword number 5 is clouds. Clouds like up in the sky.
With more than 300 days of sunshine every year, breathtaking beaches, an easy desert lifestyle, and enough bases to host the largest naval fleet in the world, San Diego is really the all-American city, which makes nearby Spring Valley an appropriate home for one of the largest makers of a quintessentially American instrument. Deering Banjo Company is run by the eponymous Greg Deering and his wife, Janet. If you haven't heard of them, it's only because you don't play the banjo yourself. Everyone who does knows the name Deering. What brought you to the banjo? I mean, why didn't you tinker a new birdhouse or a mousetrap?
Well, I fell in love with the Kingston Trio as a real young kid.
Right, sure.
And then a friend of mine had an album, and he played the guitar along with it, and I thought that was magical. And he had a guitar, so I said, I want a banjo. So I went and got a banjo and started playing and playing, and then when I got into college, I needed a better banjo and couldn't afford it, so I built one. And then another one, and the next thing I know, I was in the business.
It was 1975 when the musical world began beating a path to the Deering's living room and workshop. Today, their banjos are built in a huge factory and played all over the world.
Our goal for the showroom is for it to be the mecca of the banjo world, where every banjo player's got to make a pilgrimage there at least once. And so far, we've had some that have come several times. So we get visitors from all over the world here.
World-renowned banjoist Jens Kruger helps design Deering banjos.
The banjo is a real American instrument, and all the styles of American, music, they use the banjo, in different ways.
Most experts agree that the banjo originated in Africa as a drum-like instrument made from a gourd with 3 strings attached. Slaves who had been dragged here refashioned it on these shores, and it was later popularized by a minstrel performer named Joel Sweeney. Since then, the banjo's versatility has been tested and never found wanting by some very creative musicians. For instance, John McEwen of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
One of my missions with the banjo was to try and get it on the airwaves, and the Dirt Band came along, and I took an old-timey style and started off the song. And the guy started singing, and this became the rhythmic backup. And to get that on the radio was like, yeah, it's out there.
It's hard to hear that sound without wanting to pick a little. That's why Deering began building an affordable starter model called the Good Time Banjo.
And then when I started playing the banjo, I wish I'd had a Deering Good Time Banjo, because I had one that was like a baseball bat with strings on it. I don't know if I'd been any better or we would have had 2 more hits or whatever. See, the Deerings here have a mission.
Welcome back to Deering Banjos, where modern banjos are built the old-fashioned way. Banjos are composed of 3 main parts: the neck, the pot, and the resonator. It takes a lot of skill and almost as much wood to turn them into an instrument.
This all comes from the Northeast.
Sugar maple?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's where your maple syrup comes from.
Yeah.
So maple syrup and banjos.
There you go. That's why banjos are so sweet.
The necks are cut first, by hand, of course.
It's appropriate that you're making a musical instrument with a bandsaw.
I suppose it is, yes.
2 wooden pieces called ears are glued onto the neck. Then a truss rod is inserted. Now comes the part where the banjo gets its mojo. Thanks to Arlene.
This is a custom banjo. It's walnut, and the inlay will be mother of pearl, abalone, and silver.
How do you know how deep to go?
Well, it's kind of a gradual process. You just keep going deeper and deeper, and as an artist, you kind of know when you get there.
Right. That's beautiful. I mean, that's really an art that there's not a lot of people can do that.
The banjo's pot looks a little bit like the underside of a tambourine. Deering constructs the Good Times pots out of wood veneer strips that are glued together and smoothed on proprietary sanders.
I've never seen a machine like that before. Looks like a pottery wheel or something.
It's kind of like that. It's a lathe, but it's made just for sanding round parts. Nobody sells this kind of machine. When you want something like this, you have to build it.
In fact, that's exactly how Greg built his company. You might say it was a reward for following his father's advice.
Yeah, my dad taught me to be a good craftsman. From, a real young age, he was teaching me how to think about it, how to do it better. Not always showing me how, but challenging me to figure it out.
Like father, like son, like 50 employees, Greg oversees their training personally.
And this is where Tony puts the necks on the pots. This whole drum assembly we call a pot, like pots and pans.
Uh-huh.
That's because some of the old guys in the old mountains used to cut the bottom out of a pot and make a banjo out of it. Tony puts 20 to 30 of these together a day.
Do you play banjo, Tony?
And guitar.
So you're the guy that everybody invites to the parties, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Tony, bring your guitar and banjo.
On Fridays at lunchtime, Tony and a bunch of the guys like to jam, so we get great concerts at lunchtime on Fridays.
The banjo's last major component is the resonator. Without a resonator, well, it just wouldn't resonate.
This resonator really makes the banjo louder. It projects better. When you put the resonator on, the banjo will actually be louder, for the audience.
Can we hear the difference?
Now I take the resonator off.
It's a real big difference.
It's a big difference.
Of course, if that's not loud enough, there's still the electric banjo, a Deering innovation.
When we first came out with it, people laughed at us. Thought, isn't that a stupid thing?
Yeah, they did that same thing with the airplane.
Yeah, they quit laughing when people like Bela Fleck started playing on the Dixie Chicks.
Right.
In the world of musical instruments, oboes can be mistaken for clarinets and violins for cellos, but nothing else sounds even remotely like a banjo.
One of the beauties of the banjo, I think, is you can't be sad playing a banjo.
No.
And there's your banjo. So now let me show you the notes. Let me show you something else first also. I've gone ahead and drawn a line in my notes. These are the national anthem notes of last classes. I've got a big line here. Everything above that line is on the midterm. Everything below that line is on the final exam. We do have to go ahead and schedule the midterm after spring break. It'll probably be the second week that you're back, and in the first week we'll talk about it a lot. So here are the notes for those 3 videos you saw. I'm not going to wait for you to copy them down. You just pause your video and then you can take those. I'm going to actually move on from here with just a couple other notes and then we're done. Let's see how long we've been going. I'll open that up just a little. Where are we at? 24 minutes. So it won't even be 30 minutes and we'll be done. So now just some random American music history things. There's a really great composer named James Bland, and I think he's kind of forgotten in history. I was hoping to get to James in February when it's Black History Month, but it doesn't matter when we talk about him. It's just important that we do talk about him because he was spectacular. And I think because of his ethnicity, he wasn't too well discussed in history, so I've always tried to mention his name and point him out to people. He was also one of the first African Americans to get a college degree, and I think that's pretty important too. I think that should be a name that all Americans know and respect and look up to. Another really interesting thing about him is that he wrote the state song of Virginia. Don't know if any of you are from Virginia, would actually know the state song. Every state, I think, has a state song. We're not going to go over all 50 of them. That would be horrible to try to make you remember each state song. We're just going to mention two. This is just an interesting one because it was written by James Bland. It's called Carry Me Back. Carry me back to old Virginia. Again, you can always pause if I'm moving ahead too fast, too quickly. One thing about it, even though he was African American, he used a lot of the kind of the common vernacular or language of the time. And unfortunately back then it was pretty widespread that people used a lot of incendiary language and racist type terms. And one of the words that were used is darkies. And he wrote this song, and even though he was an African American, he even used the word darky and some other just a little bit controversial language. Although it stayed the state song, let me give you his... This isn't exact, and you won't have to know this for a test. I'm just trying to... I'm going to have to look it up. I want to tell you exactly when he lived, just so you have an idea in terms of history when we're talking about. I can get close in my head, but I want to give it to you exactly. I don't want to mess you up. It'll take me a second. Apologize for the delay. I've got my notes on my Kindle. Let's see. Okay, 1854 to 1911. That's when he was born and died. Just to give you an idea of what time period we're talking about. So it stayed that way for, I don't remember when he wrote it, around 1900 I would suspect, for about 100 years. And then finally Virginia legislators started discussing it. And rather than cancel the song, they wanted to keep it kind of as a representation of the historic parts of Virginia's history. And they kept it as the state song, and they created a state anthem. And they found a song that was already about a beautiful river. And it's just about the Shenandoah, Shenandoah. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to see you flow away, you something river. Beautiful song. And now let's move to Florida. I'm going to write these words and it comes out a little bit weird. Florida State Song. Some of you have probably been to Florida. Wink, wink. I wonder if any of you know what the state song of Florida is. And I don't mean Florida State University. I mean the state song of the great state of Florida. Maybe some of you said it. Way down upon the Suwannee River. That was written by a man named Stephen Foster. Keyword number 6 is stuffing. And Stephen Foster's dates were a little bit earlier, 1826. to 1864. Whoops. Keyword number 7 is carpet. One of the funniest things about this song, I'm going to sing the whole first verse, and this is, again, had to be in the early 1800s. He died in 1864, right around the Civil War. But these are the words, and we know what Florida's like now, but it wasn't like that back then. Way down upon the Swanee River, far, far away, that's where my heart is yearning ever. That's where the old folks stay. In some versions I've heard, old folks play. But how ironic that this is now the retirement capital of the earth, pretty much. And he had in there that it's where the old folks stay and or play. The nickname of the song is actually Old Folks at Home. So, just weird. Keyword number 8 is gravy. And that is all I have for you this week. I hope you all have a great spring break. And we'll come back and talk to you again in a little less than 2 weeks. I'll start at the beginning of the week after spring break, and we'll get all caught up, and it'll be good from there. Thank you so much.